Hello, Algebrites. We're going to continue this lovely journey of entering data into our calculators in order to find a linear model. So we did it by hand on page 1 right here, but the problem with that is that we don't know how accurate it is, and it takes a lot of work to actually get the most accurate line possible through that data. So we're going to use our handy-dandy calculators. This link over here shows you generically how to do it with an example from the book. We're going to actually walk through this page 2, but we are going to be using the material from the data that's provided on that original video. So let's open up our handy-dandy calculators, and we are going to enter this data. So again, notice here, let me show you where I am. If you go to Stat, and notice number 1 is Edit, so you can hit just the number 1 and it'll automatically come in, or you could have hit Enter. So Stat, Enter to edit. Now notice I have a whole bunch of data already in my table here, my L1, list 1, list 2, so all of these. So I'm going to clear it out. So if you see directly above the plus sign is the word mem, that means memory. So if you go to second and then memory, notice number 4 there says clear all lists. So hit the number 4 and then hit enter, and it's going to clear all lists, shockingly enough. So I'm going to go to Stat, then number 1 to edit, and notice that everything is blank. So I'm going to arrow over to list 1, and I'm going to enter all the length of the right finger in centimeters in this. So 7.5 and 8.3, 6.6, 7.1, 7.7, 7.6. Notice I've made a mistake, so always good to double check that. 6.5, 7 flat, and 6.5. I suggest doing this as well, so press pause and enter this data in because practice makes permanent. Now I'm going to continue on with 29, 30, 23, 28, 26.4, 26 flat, 24, 22.5, 23, and 22. Okay, notice that somewhere there's a mistake because the dimensions of the two lists are off. So I'm going to go back through and just double check my data. All right, so 7, 5, 8, 3, 6, 3, or 6, 6, 7, 1, 7, 7. Okay, so I forgot a 7.6 there. And you can't just insert it, unfortunately, so you actually have to go back through and re-enter everything. So, and then another 6.5. Okay, good. Now I'm just going to double check this column, making sure my data is accurate. Okay, good. So now that we entered that data, let's view the scatter plot, see what that looks like. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, if you go into graph, you would hope that it would show up, but notice I have some other line here, or a curve. So I'm going to go into Y1, and I notice this is something from a previous problem that I've had. So I'm just going to clear that out and graph here, but notice I don't see anything. So how do I turn on and graph the data? So press second because you want to go up to stat plot above the Y equals. So I'm going to enter into, you can just hit the number 1 to go into the first plot. These are other regions where you can plot more data if you'd like. So I'm going to make sure that the plot is turned on, so arrow down and make sure you highlight and hit enter on the on. I'm going to do a scatter plot here as opposed to the other types of graphs, and I want to graph L1 versus L2. And I'm going to use this shape right there. And now when you get all the way through, hit enter. All right, let's graph. Oh no, it's not showing up. Why not? Well, that's because we're in the wrong window. We don't know where we are. So notice the window here, I'm at 3.3 to 6. So that means this is 3.3 all the way to 6. So I can't see my data. So how do I do that? We'll go to zoom, and if you scroll down, 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 all the way to the number 9, you see this thing called zoom stat. Now a shortcut on that is just go into zoom and just press the number 9. That's it, and it automatically will show up all the data. And perfect, there it is. We see that the data trends, it goes up as the finger lengths get higher, this continues up. So we are going to now we want to get a line that goes through that. So now how do we graph the trend line, or also called the line of best fit in this case? So we're going to go to Stat, Calc, and number 4 because we want to do what's called LinReg. So Stat, I'm going to scroll right to go to the Calc menu and go down to 4. You don't have to scroll down, just hit the number 4 to get LinReg. So this says we want to take the data from L1 into X, L2 into Y, and also point out here, I want to store my data. Store it. Why? Because I want to put my equation into the calculator. I want to save it, in other words. So how do I call up one of the y's here? Well, that lives in vars here. So go over to the vars button, then arrow right to get to y vars. It means y variables. Then you can hit enter to get into function, and then enter again to get into y1. Let me show you again. That's actually fairly quick to do. So let me clear this out. So you go to vars, scroll right, hit enter, enter. And there you go. It's fairly quick. And now if you scroll down, it's going to ask you to calculate, and you hit yes. So we're told that it looks like this. Notice this is slope-intercept form, y equals ax plus b. They're just calling the slope a. So 3.97895 is what my slope is, and b is negative 3.17. So that's what we're going to be writing in this region right here, is y equals 3.9, and I'll probably say 3.98. So let me write that out here. Y equals 3.98x, because we substituted into the x there, and then the b is a negative or a minus 3.18. So we're going to round up. All right, so that's what we're going to enter into this right here. Now, above, we talked about correlation, and we're also going to talk about the R value in just a moment. So you're going to go ahead and enter in this R value right there, 0.81, or excuse me, 0.8099, and enter that in right here. Okay. Now the last part is, if a teacher's finger length is 7.5, let's predict the foot size here. So now we have a formula right here, and I'll show you where it lives. In fact, we already stored it in y1, so there it is. So when we graph it, we see that the line goes among the data. So this looks pretty darn good. Okay, so how do I get and evaluate a 7.5 on this line? Because the line is the prediction part here. So let's quit, so do second and quit, and we want to pull up the y1. So go back into y vars, hit enter, enter there, and we're going to evaluate. So you do parentheses, 7.5 parentheses. So what this says is evaluate the function called y1 at 7.5. So when the finger length is 7.5, how large is the foot? 26.66 centimeters is the expectation. Okay. Now that's just to show you where that lives here. That is on this line here. So I'm going to trace on the line just to show you down below. When we get to 7.5 right here, notice this is 26.6-ish. Notice I'm a little bit too high here, so I have to round down for this one. Okay, so that's how we enter in the data and find what's called the line of best fit, or the linear regression, or a trend line. Thank you very much.